Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of Serial Sketch Sunday. I'm your host, Nikki, and I am happy to announce that the editing issues have been resolved. Thank goodness. I hope that you find this video more enjoyable. Please feel free to let me know what you thought down below in the comments, and let's just go ahead and jump right into the story. Disclaimer. All information provided in the telling of the story is provided with the intention of education and is not meant to hurt or offend anyone that may have been involved in these stories. I have gathered this information from various sources, which you may find in the description box. I have done my best to condense it down. Should you feel I missed something interesting or important to the serial killer profile, please leave it down in the comments below. With that, the following video is intended for mature audiences. We are talking about serial killers and their crimes. Viewer discretion is advised. Pre-warning, I'm about to butcher some names up in here. Daniel Camargo Barbosa was born January 22, 1930, in Colombia, into a wealthy family led by Father Daniel Camargo Barbosa and Mother Teresa Barbosa. He was the youngest of two. He had an older half-sister from his father's first marriage. Sadly, when Daniel was only 2 years old, his mother would pass away. Rather quickly, Daniel's father did remarry to a young woman named Dioselina Fernandez. While financially they lived a comfortable life, that was about the only comfort that Daniel had. His sister was older and didn't require as much care. His stepmother wanted nothing more than to have a daughter of her own. She was unable to conceive and took a strong liking to Daniel's sister, while resenting having to care for the young boy, who acted out to get any attention he could get. Generally negative. His father was often busy with his business, disinterested in Daniel, leaving the parenting to his adolescent wife. Daniel's stepmother would punish him in the cruelest of ways for anything and everything, especially for being a male. Dioselina would forcibly rip down his pants and use a bullwhip to strike the child on his bare-skinned rear. She would also force him to wear girl clothes, even inviting over his classmates to taunt and ridicule him. He was frequently bullied after this. This childhood humiliation and punishment left Daniel with a deep hatred for women and anything feminine. Side note, childhood humiliation can lead to depression and anxiety as an adult. He soon was sent away to an all-boys Catholic boarding school where by all accounts he was a good student with no issues and excelled academically. Again, Daniel found himself a victim of circumstance. The Guatemalan Civil War, known as La Violencia, The Violence, was a 10-year civil war in Colombia. Because of the war, Daniel dropped out of school to return home to assist with bringing in money for the family. They were not as well off as they had been previously. Daniel was a charming and intelligent man with an above-average IQ, reportedly at 116, making his job as a traveling salesman much easier. In 1957, at 27 years old, Daniel began a relationship with a client named Alciria Castillo. After going on only a few dates, he convinced her to rent a house in her name. The two moved in together and quickly had 2 children back to back. That little adventure cost more than expected, so in 1958, Daniel decided to rob a shop. He was caught shortly after and sent to a minimum security prison for petty theft. Again, Daniel was an intelligent man, so he devised a plan to escape. Here was how he executed his plan. Daniel picks up a clipboard, pretending to examine the papers on it. As he is doing so, he follows after 2 officers as they finish and are heading home from their shifts. He simply walked out the front door. He then returned to his home and resumed life as though he had never been imprisoned. That was it. Yet another witty serial killer, outsmarting the police with the most simple trickery. If you haven't watched episode 1 of my Serial Sketch Sunday, be sure to check it out for another witty serial killer story. Let's get back to the story. In 1962, Daniel met a woman named Esperanza and decided to leave his then common-law wife and children. However, he was upset when he learned that not only was she not a virgin, but he would later catch her in bed with another man. according to the story as it's told, meaning we don't have an account from her point of view, so take it as you will. He told her that he would stay if she could help by making it up to him, by luring in young virgin girls that would be drugged with sleeping pills and then raped. Esperanza was equally as twisted and agreed. She helped lure 5 young virgin girls to Daniel over the course of 2 years before the 5th victim was able to identify the couple to the police. Both were arrested and sent to separate prisons. It is unclear what happened to Esperanza after being sent to prison. Daniel was sent to prison for 8 years after being caught leaving a victim alive. He decided from that point forward, no victim would survive his future attacks. In 1972, at 42 years old, Daniel was released and moved to Brazil. But less than a year later, he was arrested for illegal immigration into Brazil and deported back to Colombia. In May of 1974, he passed a school where he found his next victim, a 9-year-old little girl. He lured her away, raped, and murdered her. He left her body where he could return the next day to dispose of. However, he was followed by a cop that suspected that Daniel was involved in the disappearance of 2 children. Daniel unknowingly led the officers straight to the body of the young girl. He was sentenced to 30 years of seclusion in Gorgana, later lowered to 25 years. For the next 10 years, Daniel found himself a prisoner in the Nazi concentration camp styled prison facility. The facility was located on Gorgana Island, where very violent offenders were kept. Located about 22 miles off the coast of Colombia, the island is about 5.5 miles long and 1.5 miles wide. The island was surrounded by sharks and inhabited by many venomous snakes. Trying to escape was seen as impossible. It was a death trap. They slept on beds with no pillows, and the bathroom was a hole in the ground. Despite the odds, Daniel managed to escape via a raft or rowboat. He was reported as dead by the media because nobody could escape such a place. Or so they thought. But remember, Daniel was above average. He studied the land and the ocean, learning how to escape. He was able to escape an island dubbed the Colombian version of Alcatraz. From 1984 to 1986, he reportedly murdered 55 girls and young women in Ecuador. At the time, the media was reporting that a new serial killer, nicknamed the Beast of the Andes, had decided to top Lopez's victim count. He preyed on helpless victims, mainly those from lower-class families desperate for money. Pretending to be a foreigner looking for a church located on the outskirts of town, he would offer the girls candy, money, or something else that would entice them to help him. Once they would enter a wooded area, he would claim to remember a shortcut. If the girls continued with him, he would then rape and strangle them. He was also known to slash, hack, stab, and mutilate them. However, if they became suspicious, he would simply continue on to find a new victim. He would then take the victim's items to sell, as well as working his normal job of reselling ballpoint pens on the streets. If Daniel came across the victim's family's number, he would call and taunt the families after the crime. The bodies were left out in the elements for scavengers to finish off. Local authorities thought it was the work of organized crime rings or white slavery rings. The rumors also mentioned the potential of protected rich people murdering for fun or satanic cults. In February of 1987, at 56 years old, Daniel was once again caught by the police as he exited the woods with bloody clothes from his last victim and the book Crime and Punishment by Fyodor Dostoevsky in his bag. I know I butchered that, guys. Just let it go. He was quoted as saying, "I hated prostitutes. They disgusted me. I feared venereal diseases and their ravages. I wanted pure, virgin women." He is also quoted saying, "I rape virgin girls because they cry." He showed no remorse. Daniel confessed to killing and dismembering 71 girls in Ecuador since escaping the Colombian prison. He then led authorities to the dumping grounds for those who had yet to be recovered. It is, however, believed that his victim count was around 150 total. In 1989, Daniel was sentenced to 16 years, the maximum sentence allowed for murder in Ecuador. He was sent to Quiros Garcia Moreno prison, the same prison as another infamous serial killer, Pedro Lopez. If you would like to see a video on Pedro Lopez, be sure to leave it down in the comments below. So, for the final twist in this story, Daniel was given a cellmate, a 29-year-old man who was not a fan of Daniel. And one day, on November 13th, 1994, he entered the cell and demanded that 64-year-old Daniel get down on his knees. The man then said, "It's the hour of vengeance," before shanking Daniel 8 times and cutting off his ear as a souvenir. His motivation? He was related to one of the victims of Daniel's. Talk about jailhouse justice. Daniel's body was never claimed, so he was buried in a mass grave located in Quito's El Baton Cemetery. And that is the story of the serial killer, Daniel Camargo Barbosa. He was truly a terrible person, and it's not a wonder given his early formative years, but that's his story. He was mentioned in several books about serial killers. I will have my sources linked down below in case you would like to look into it for yourself. Also, if you have suggestions for who I should cover next, be sure to leave those suggestions down below. Also, be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring that bell icon so you never miss a beat. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Pullen Vlogs for more art-related posts. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Bye!